Like I said, this week we're going to discuss Kavanaugh, the D.C. Council 77, and Jessica Raven, and getting local politics on your plate. Our sponsors this week are
Chuck Levine, Grindstone Universal, Heartcast Media, One Love Massive, DC as fuck, and these lovely two people right here running this sound and this video equipment, Jarrell and Molly.
What up, Molly? How you doing today?
Oh, me?
Oh, you?
You know, I'm living the dream, man. Living the dream.
I think this is the first show we've actually ever done together.
Yeah, I've always successfully managed to get out of the building in time.
I seriously don't blame you at all, whatsoever. Today with me we have Graham and Torres, better known as Valerie Torres.
Hi. Am I supposed to say something?
You can say hi and how you doing.
Hi, how are you doing?
And
Introduce yourselves to us. Tell us who you are.
I am. What?
Is this your first time on?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Introduce yourself to the world.
Well, I'm Valerie Torres. What else am I supposed to say?
Whatever you would like.
Okay. I bartend. I live in DC. I love being here.
Nice. We love having you here. Miss Graham, do
Hi.
introduce yourself.
I'm Valerie Graham. I am also a longtime bartender in DC. This is my second time doing the podcast, and I'm really excited to be here.
How was your first time?
It was an experience.
It usually is.
Yeah.
It's usually a good time. I mean, people always come back for seconds, usually.
I said some things that I...
You said some things.
Some things.
You have a couple new hashtags. Did you get to watch the show last week?
I didn't get to see the entire thing.
Did you hear her
I
rant?
saw how drunk y'all were, though.
What?
No, not me.
I was salty.
What?
These two.
Not me.
I'm listening. What was this rant?
Apparently, apropos of nothing, I felt the need to talk about somebody as fuck your penis. It was basically like fuck your penis.
Hashtag.
But it was
Fuck your
we were
penis.
talking about water filters.
We were talking about water
putting them
filtration.
on, and I said something about putting a condom on. If you can't put a water filter up to a faucet, how you gonna put a condom on it? And all of a sudden, the mad
what
dog
y'all-
Valerie kicked in.
That's what y'all turned into?
That was...
That's what
Hey, I was in the restroom.
she turned.
I was not here.
Molly
turned
was
into
like,
mad
yo,
dog.
I was taking a mean-ass big girl sit-down.
And,
it was on.
Miss Graham turned into Mad Dog Graham.
That was Mad Dog.
It's totally Mad Dog.
She's wild.
So you got in trouble this week, huh, for doing that?
I did.
Yeah.
I have to be on best behavior.
Sorry, boyfriend.
I know, he's sweet.
You can call me Satan. And my co-host for the evening is...
My name is Jamie Roderick. I just started a Twitter handle, Bars Simpson,
What?
because I got bars and I work in a bar and I like Bart Simpson, so it all seemed right. You know?
Yeah, when you sent that to me, I just kind of like chuckled.
Maniacal.
You're so
really.
Of course he did.
maniacal. Of course.
Of course
it
he
is.
did. And I am Marcus Bradley Donovan, the Pasteurized Chef. So let's get this going. Let's do our safe words. Get them out of the way. Ms. Torres, you go
Why me
first.
first?
You go first every week.
Do I?
Yeah, because you're always on my left.
You're also the only one who uses it too. Like I ain't never like.
That's not true.
Who else uses it?
I use my left.
Boo did.
I actually
Boo
use
does.
my...
Boo did. What the fuck did you say to make Boo use his safe word?
I don't remember. It's last week.
Damn.
There was
You gotta
that
watch
one
the
time
episode.
we all used our safe words.
I've never used my safe word. A matter of fact,
We'll
one time
make
I was
sure.
going to, but I forgot.
You forgot your safe word one time,
Slam
so you
forgot
couldn't
my
remember.
safe word.
I'm gonna say passion fruit.
Passion fruit. Why? Because is that what we're drinking?
I don't know.
Thought juice.
What are these
No, I
nasty
thought
ass?
it was what?
Jamaican me happy.
Jesus.
Like, who comes up with names like that?
I don't know.
White people.
Fair. That's right.
Right. Just a bunch of old white dudes in a room. Like, yo, it's got fruit in it. Jamaican me happy. That's funny.
You
I'm
thought
sorry.
about that.
I thought
You
about that.
seriously
I got,
thought about
I got
that.
a real
Do a
good
shot.
giggle.
Just do a shot. Just a
Tell me
penalty
to do a
shot for that
shot.
one. Penalty shot on that one. Miss Graham, safe word.
Persnickety.
Really?
That's a good one.
That's
That's good.
Spell that.
Persnickety.
Person.
Persnickety.
P-E-R.
Persni.
I wish I had a buzzer like
K-
this.
Yo,
CK.
Before she
I-T-Y.
Right.
Persnick. Idiot.
Yeah, sure.
person
Y'all better
did
than
it.
me, 'cause I'd have been like, never mind, new word.
Yeah, just I'm a new word. You ever do, like when you're writing stuff or you're like typing things, you just change the word if you don't know how to spell it, you just change the whole sentence
Yeah.
around.
Oh yeah.
Do that shit all the time.
Because if autocorrect can't do it, I'll be like, nope.
nope.
I remember one time I was in like 8th grade, and like we were reading something, And like I looked at my paper. I was like, "Excuse me, Miss Brown, what's con science?" And like she looked at me and like giggled or whatever. I was not joking. It wasn't for like a couple years. I was like, "Oh shit, that's how you spell
It's
conscience."
the opposite of pro science.
See, right?
I knew it wouldn't take long for you to get in.
Leave me with a microphone and no camera.
My safe word is pro science.
Pro science. I'm gonna go with berries.
Okay, is that real?
Berries.
All
What
right.
pro science?
Pro
I
science.
don't think pro science is a real word.
It is a night. In this
It
world,
can be.
Give me about 20 minutes.
it'll be a real word.
Pro science.
We're all pro science.
All right, how was your week? Does everybody have a good week?
Yes.
You didn't have a good week.
My week was wild.
Was it wild? Tuesday was a wild day for you guys.
Yeah.
We had a little event here at Heartcast Studio,
We did.
open house at James Smith's. We have a couple pictures from that we'll put up on our Facebooks and stuff. But also, you ladies did you go early that Tuesday? Were you one of the members in the Wilson building?
Yes, we were.
Yeah. I went later at night though. I got off at like 9. I didn't go on until like 1.
No,
I
this
don't
was
mean-
we're
I don't
talking
mean
about
Tuesday.
Tuesday
I mean
for
last
the
week-
actual
last
repeal vote.
Oh no, I had the kid.
Fair enough.
Yeah, couldn't make it.
All right.
I bring him, but Daddy gets real passionate sometimes.
And you don't want him to see that?
And no, I'm cool with him seeing it, but like I just don't need to get arrested in front of him. That'd be one of those like Dexter serial killer memories or whatever. Like, and now he's into like S&M
So-
all crazy because he watched his dad get handcuffed or something like that.
S&M all crazy, huh?
Yeah.
That's not wrong with S&M.
I mean, look. Did you watch like that whole gray shit?
What?
I ain't read the books. That
50 Shades of
that
Grey?
50
No,
Shades
hell
of
no.
Grey.
Why would I read that?
Right.
Dang,
Well, you're
pretty
not a
well.
45-year-old white woman who's married in the suburbs or anything like that. But like, I watched the first one, and I was like, "Yo, this is actually low-key 50 Shades of fucked up." Like,
I've seen bits and pieces of the movie, like was on TV,
it was weird. I just don't want to find out. Like, but then again, hey, rocks off is rocks off.
hey, I just know they had some wild sex. Is all I know about these books.
It wasn't really
Did either one of you read the books?
No.
Fuck no.
I don't read those
No.
kind of books.
I barely
Yeah.
even. I was
read-
barely even able to sit through the first movie.
Y'all read Zane?
I didn't even do
Don't read
that. No, I'm good.
What?
I'm good. I don't read books that are written for women, unfortunately. Like, I think a lot of
That was written for women?
content that is written for women
Some
is.
nasty shit. I love that.
I'm good. I don't need it.
I was also a little young when it came out, like prime masturbation years, like for those Zane books. So like I saw that on my mom's shelf and was like, it's like
is
it's
Zane?
like
What
is
black
a Zane book?
erotica.
Yeah.
It's like black erotica.
Okay.
And like she had this one book of short stories because I was like 13, bro. I damn near ripped it off. Like
I think she's from PG County.
I think so.
She's
Like
local.
all of her books and stories are based here in DC.
Oh, right on. We should try to get her on.
I hope so,
Have her do a little reading.
bruh.
How about you do a reading?
Bruh, I will do a reading
With
or
her.
whatever, right? Yo, 9 out of like 10 girls in those books swallow. Throwing that out there.
All right.
We should get to
Let's
Zane.
move on to the repeal.
Okay, fine.
So do explain to me what happened on this Tuesday, please. Miss Val?
So should I go back to explain?
No. We talked about 77 enough. I just want to talk about the repeal itself
So the
and
repeal-
what's the next step. What are
Okay.
we actually going to do now? What's moving forward? What we have to do?
So in July, 7 of the 13 council members wrote a bill for repeal. And when we all the 3 of us testified on September 17th, we testified for, like we talked about, 16 and a half hours.
August. Was it? Oh no, it was September.
September
I'm sorry.
17th. It was only a
Yeah,
couple weeks
I don't
ago.
even. I'm so
Damn,
disoriented.
this week has been really long for you, hasn't it? You time traveled like a motherfucker this week.
Not travel.
So we testified, a bunch of people testified, and then they had to vote on the repeal bill that was proposed by the 7 council members to repeal 77. There was one of the council members who was against repeal. She proposed,
Silverman, right?
yes, Lisa Silverman, she proposed a quote-unquote compromise, but it was full of a bunch of nonsense.
She was being so disrespectful, yo.
Oh, she was, and
Like,
and
so
the
disrespectful.
way that she spoke to the council members, the way that she spoke to the chairman, I mean, the way that she spoke to us was super condescending and like really disrespectful.
That's why I was waiting for her to ask me a question. The look on the meme that I'm on right now is literally me like looking at her like, please act up so I can act up. Damn it. Like,
Yeah, and so neither whatever. Long story short, the council voted against her compromise 8-5. And then they had to vote on the actual repeal bill. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right. So they voted on the repeal bill also 8-5 to pass it. What they also had to do was, in order to stop 77 from going into effect on October 9, they had to vote on an emergency repeal to stop it for at least, what is it?
Till
8
March.
months?
Yeah.
Till March. And that passed by 13. So all of the councilmen unanimously passed. So now they are in the process of just figuring out the legislation, because in order to put in to place all the things that were put into the repeal bill that was a compromise
These
to
concessions that were
the
made.
concessions that were made, it's going to cost a lot of money, and so they're going to have to find that money in the budget somehow. So they needed time to be able to do that.
So what's the next step to say, like, with the bartenders? Like, what are you guys? Because obviously you have something good here, and whether it's 77 or it's another initiative, you have a political force here in a sense, because you guys
Right.
overturned a major. This is the first time it's happened. You know, there's a lot of pissed. No,
Well, it might be the first time. Well,
No,
I mean
an
initiative, right? It's the first time an initiative.
there have been a handful, but
Okay. But not a lot. But not a lot.
No,
It's
no,
not
it's
happened
not.
a lot.
It's not common.
but also what's significant, I think, about this one is that it was overturned before it was
The initiative,
allowed.
Before it was put into place.
Yeah, before it was put into place. And
no term limits.
term
was ever
limits
put.
too. That, I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
That is my caveat. But
But-
I think like one of the things that cannot be overemphasized enough is how powerful the narrative about disenfranchising the voters has been and continues to be.
Yeah, there's a lot of pissed off people.
People
There's
are
a lot of blowback, for
really,
sure.
really
I mean,
mad.
blowback wise, though, honestly speaking, again, it's for the people who don't do what we do.
Yeah,
Exactly.
But the
They
thing
have
is,
power.
A lot of people sit there and what they're thinking is like, oh, why don't you want to raise? Because everybody who owns a bar is a millionaire and they can afford to pay that $15.
well, here's what's come out. They should never put like nail technicians or anybody bunched in
No.
with bartenders. They should broke it down by industry and in certain, like,
And so that was something that was not because of 77. I mean, there's just a very broad definition of
yeah.
Tipped
And
point.
a lot of things that came out of that was, like with the ROC and everybody, like there wasn't a lot of honesty coming from that side. So the people, half the reason why they're mad now is because they don't understand. They were fed a wrong bill of goods. Like they were given,
But the other half of the reason why they're mad is because they were given a choice to put something into place that they had no business being empowered to put into place.
Yeah.
Because they're not qualified. And it feels bad. It's like as a parent, when you give your kid a choice and that your child is not qualified to make it, it doesn't feel good. The initiative system needs to be reformed. And I'm going to be really active in advocating for that, because when you put things in front of the voters and then you say, oh, the voters made a bad choice, then what do? That's where we are right now.
well, you own it now, and that's
Who
what
owns it?
We do.
I mean,
as a
if
whole
you think about it,
industry
though,
does.
somebody said this during the whole panel and everything that they were like, you have to remember this is a democratic republic. We voted you
Right,
into
right.
fake mistakes.
Right.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Exactly.
The
To
people
make
are
sure
not
that the laws
always
are
right.
good.
A person is always smart. Yes, people are dumb idiots. They're irrational.
Yeah.
Right, but I
Irrational
think-
is a lot of things that you're getting.
And this right here, 77, was really
very
irrational.
irrational.
Like the amount of young white women who have been screaming at me,
Oh my
like,
God.
you're so wrong, you're so wrong. And when I tell them how I'm right, they get even more mad. You know what I mean?
Well, my thing is, what I'm asking, what's next? Like, you guys came together as a whole industry. Now, what do you do with that? You can't go backwards. You can't.
No.
So you,
We're
like you
talking
said,
about-
I
stand
thought I
more
was going to
active.
burn every 77 thing I had, like when it was repealed.
But you
and
don't do that in
I was
politics.
like, yo, I'm
now
done.
you actually
I'm
have
out.
you have a force. You have
Right,
something you
right.
could be reckoned with. Now you can not start a union or anything like
No,
that.
but
But now
we
you
need to organize.
You
Yeah.
need to be
That's
more
the
organized.
next step.
Now you need to be a collective and move forward, because it is power in numbers.
Right.
You guys changed.
Right.
You repealed an initiative. So now where do you go? Like, do you get insurance, universal insurance?
Right.
Well, what do we do to make this industry? How do we fix
I think
this?
that, I mean, we plus several other people have been talking for a while prior to even the vote in June about trying to put together a coalition, whether it be like a guild or a group, an organization that's worker driven. So like not with owners and operators, not with.
I think that's very smart. I think it's a brilliant idea.
So. And but
Those
but
would
to
be
be
the dopest holiday parties physically possible, guys.
It's called the Jameson Ball.
Right. No, so Jameson Ball sucks now. That's the problem.
I know it does. But it's not as fun as it used to be.
Remember when it was at what was it, Rock and Roll Hotel? I almost died in that building.
I was down that building on a weekly basis.
I think we're talking about
People
organizing.
actually died in that building. You know, it used to be a mortuary.
I know.
Yeah, they probably didn't
I-
die.
I-
They
so
were already
what I
dead.
want to do is I want to do a Halloween show, and I want to bring some of the people who work
You know it's
there.
my birthday, right?
Yeah, nobody cares. And I want to bring
Halloween?
people. No,
You're
happy-
from Delaware?
Delaware.
Okay, enough. about
Delaware?
that. Okay, Rock and Roll
Delaware.
Hotel.
What, Shave Nutsack?
So can I add a little something about 77?
Yes, ma'am.
So from an outsider's perspective, you know, like I know a bunch of people who are restaurant owners who I like really respect, and they're like 77 is bad. It's bad for a lot of the people. And there are people who I know like genuinely give a shit about their employees, you know?
Yeah.
And then I know people who are restaurant owners who give a shit about their employees who say it's good. Like it's so crazy how polarized.
Yeah.
Like I know like two people of color who are like super like pro black, pro like equality, everything. And they're on the opposite ends of the spectrum on this argument. And it's just so confusing.
It's really confusing.
So,
You know?
but I'm curious to know, like, who of an owner who was.
well, I mean, I don't want to call anybody
we're not
out.
going to
No, I know, but like, there were very few.
Very few.
I mean,
that
got the
came
Florida
out
Avenue
publicly.
Grill
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
or whatever, and that place is some garbage anyway.
I like that place. I enjoyed
You
that
don't
place.
like
You
that
should
place.
not
Don't
like that
nobody
place.
like that place.
So
I didn't like that place before I knew.
I like diners.
Like it
I like
just,
greasy spoons. I
Yep, there are a
do.
lot of-
See, I'm cool with
can I
greasy
jump in?
spoons.
I feel like I've been trying to
I'm
jump
listening.
in for a minute.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Gentlemen. So, like, just to your point, Molly, about how confusing this dialogue is, how confusing and how polarizing. I think when you offer the voters the opportunity to say this is going to become law, and what they don't, and you ask them who's a tipped worker, who's the tip, what's the tip credit, and they don't know, you know. So there's so much that is not known by the average voter, and even from people inside the industry. A lot of the people that testified on Rock's side were like, I worked I had a summer job, and I worked and I couldn't do it because it was too hard. I couldn't live with the inconsistency. And it's like, that's cool. It wasn't for you.
Right.
But for those
That's
of
the
us who've been
industry.
in the industry and made careers in this industry and raised our families in this industry, I think the fact of the matter is, like, you don't have enough support. If this thing doesn't have the unanimous support of the industry, both owner operators and workers, or at least all workers or most workers, then you have to take another look.
Yeah.
And I think that it's like, we don't even agree on who tipped workers are, or we're just,
Right.
the voters
Yeah.
don't even know who qualifies as a tipped worker. So, you know, Phil Mendelson made this point, like, you're comfortable making this decision despite the fact that all of these people are telling you it's going to hurt me, it's going to hurt my job, it's going to hurt my business, people are going to lose their jobs, and you're comfortable with that. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, we can do better than that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's go back to the table and say, and these owner operators who are pro 77 are fully welcome to pay their employees a base hourly wage of $15 an hour. I bet they don't. I bet they're waiting for the law to be passed so everybody has to do it.
Well,
But
we-
if you're pro, do it. You're like, you can do
Do it.
whatever you want.
Well, we were the Monday night, the night before. Her and I were hanging out with a friend of mine who owns multiple restaurants, and he was like, was dead set it wasn't going to get repealed. And he was like, "Fuck it." He's like, "I'm just going to have to let go of my bar backs, my bussers." He's like, "My bartenders are going to have to do everything."
Yep.
And he's like, "I'm gonna have to." He's like, "I'll move to Baltimore." Like, and he was really passionate. Now we were a couple Jamesons in, but he was like, you know, he says what he feels, and he was really concerned because he was like, "Well, fuck it, I feel like we
I
can't
can't
do
do
anything."
business in
Yeah,
this
and he's
city.
been
that's
an
what he
owner
said.
forever.
He's
in
been
the
in-
city.
I got into an argument with a guy, and he brought up McDonald's, and he was like, "Well, McDonald's can pay that or whatever." I was like, "Have you been to a McDonald's?
They're
lately?
automated now.
It's all automated. Like,
That's
if
what
the
happened when
staff's-
they went
the
to
staff's at
15.
a quarter. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. Now it's $15. I'm just going to get rid of a couple people because my
Yeah.
bottom line's what matters.
Yeah.
Because there was
no
a big
one
stink
pays.
about
no one
McDonald's.
all they hear is all these millionaire restaurant owners, but it's still a business.
Right.
Profits have to be made. You can't go in the red so many times.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, I got to start getting rid of bodies.
I mean,
And, yeah, and when you talk about the overturning the will of the people, it was myself and I think it was Zach. We were having conversation with one of the reverends because Mendelsohn was really getting attacked by a lot of the reverends, a lot of the clergy or whoever, right before the vote. And we were out in the hallway and I was speaking to one of them and I was like, this is something that's going to hurt me. Like, when have you...
Where's your moral compass on this?
And he said, well, this is like, we decided, we voted. And I was like, so what you're saying to me is your priority is the ethics of withholding the vote versus people's livelihoods. I was like, you feel the principle of upholding your vote, even though, like, now that we're talking, like, it sort of isn't right. Because he was sort of hedging a little bit. Like, he started becoming a little more skeptical. You could see it in his face. Like,
was
he was
it Graylin?
No. No.
The way I see it
No,
is,
and he was like,
politics.
he was really just like, you could see it in his face, and I was just blowing his whole narrative.
Right.
And then, but he was like, but we voted. We already voted. You need to uphold democracy.
No,
And
that's
I
not
was
what
like,
you-
nobody wants to be embarrassed, and that's the reason
Yes.
why he kept
Yeah.
his mouth shut. He could have had the whole look on his face of, oh,
No. He
I'm
was really
starting
like,
to think,
he
you know
kept,
what I mean?
but he kept arguing the same thing. He kept
Yeah,
saying like,
yeah.
the
'Cause
will of the
if
voters
he'd
and
have
blah blah
switched
blah.
in that particular moment, he'd have been found fallible, and as
Right.
the good Reverend Doctor Pastor, whatever the hell you want to call his ass,
Right, whatever he was,
No
yeah.
one looks at that man like he's infallible.
Right. But
I'm
what
sorry,
I'm saying
everyone
is
looks
that
at him
like
like he is infallible. I apologize.
I think that's where, these people who are arguing the will of the people being
Right.
overturned and like, not following democracy or whatever, that's
This
where
is a
that's
pure-
where they're
This was democracy to
Right.
the whole.
and that's what they don't understand.
Right.
They don't
In the-
understand that
And-
like that is how the government
Right.
and
They're
DC,
there to make sure that we don't fuck up
Right.
too much.
Like, and Phil Mendelsohn, again,
They're saying-
Who I love him, my
Valerie
bae.
and I are both, I mean, Valerie claimed him first,
He's
but
mine.
like, we are, I think collectively there's a whole bunch of us that are in love with Phil Mendelsohn because he's so dope. But he made this point at the repeal hearing. Alyssa Silverman had this impassioned moment where she tried to create this dramatic scene where she got very emotional and she
seems like
said,
she's an a-hole.
yeah, where she called out this Rock has this one parking valet who is a lovely gentleman, and they trot him out because he's the only parking person, and he's this black
Oh, you
guy.
mean the black dude, the short
Dia
black
King,
dude?
yeah.
Who
He
PS
didn't
does not
do
work in
anything
DC.
but prove our point.
He didn't.
Yeah.
Right.
He
Right.
All he
He
did was
100%
prove our
proved our
point.
point.
And he
Agreed.
was literally
But
like,
they-
man, if I'm not in the mood, I don't get tipped. Well, guess what, bruh?
Right.
I hate all of you, all foot and a half away from me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to smile, I'm going to do this dance,
Right.
and I'm going to walk out of here
I'm
with
gonna
this
get tipped.
$300. Look,
Right.
Judy Lim, one of my favorite bartenders I ever worked with, said it best. I'm nice to people, and they give me their money.
Yeah, I love Judy.
Yeah.
She's dope. But anyway, so Alyssa has this moment where she trots out. She's like, I want Dia King to stand up. I want you all to look, because at this point it's already clear that her compromise is dead. I want you to look Dia King in the face and tell
Look him in the eye.
Look him in the eye and tell him that his voice doesn't matter. Look, and she starts
And
naming-
that he is not worth like a living wage.
Right.
You know what
And
sucks about that?
Did she call Troop D out?
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was like, Troop D, stand up. And we're like, should we
And
stand
I was like,
up?
oh,
What do we do?
hell no.
Like, do we-
I'd have
what
stood
happens? What happens?
slam
Well,
up.
I think Dawn
Well,
was
here's
the
the
first
thing.
one. I think there
I think like there were
was,
people,
like-
and it was
like-
Dawn and somebody else on our left that
and
stood
then
up.
so
I
a bunch
didn't
of us stood up and we're
realize.
like, look us in the eye, and there's like this dramatic moment. You're not allowed to like
We're not
yell,
supposed to, like, get
scream,
up and, like,
stand
talk.
up, make a thing in the council. But it was just like, and this Reverend Grayland Haggard, I think Grayland something,
Yes.
Mr. Cracker Politics, stood. He said, look the voters in the eye. And I was like, well, why is your vote more important than my livelihood? It was just this really dramatic thing. Apparently my mom saw it on the news.
I saw it on the news as well.
So this thing happens, and then so Alyssa has her little fucking moment, and then Phil Mendelsohn says, he like reclaims his time, and he says, we're so caught up talking about the procedure of the initiative and the procedure of overturning the vote, that we are not talking about the merits of the vote. And that is what we are here to talk about. We're here to talk about the merits and the impact of this vote. This initiative, if put into law, will hurt people. And it was like, he just kept kind of bringing it back to that point. And even with that, like, people are still, I got into a yelling argument with a lovely 70-year-old progressive white woman who I know, like, outside of 77, about 77. And she's just like a classic DC old progressive white lady that's like, well, you women are being exploited for tips and blah, 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 blah. And so we were like yelling. I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I do, because I did the books for a restaurant that went out of business in 1988. I'm like, oh my God. And so just going back and forth. And she says, I will always fight for a living wage. And I said, please don't fight for me. I am begging you.
Please don't.
Don't fight for me, because you don't care who gets hurt. But that's really like what we're up against. Like, we won it. The council showed up for us, and I didn't know that they would.
And they're taking a beating right now.
They really are.
Taking a beating.
Yeah,
But
and
the
we
voters
need to take
could
a
make
moment to like thank them. We
Seriously.
need to thank the chairman, Phil Mendelsohn.
Yes. And the 7.
Yeah, the other 5.
I don't know who
The
it
other
was.
7.
Motherfucking Alyssa Silverman tried to be like, oh, we're the fabulous 5. Bitch.
Oh, it was Che. It was Che.
She's the least fabulous of all those motherfuckers.
Yeah,
I wish I could see
Phil
her
Mendelsohn totally called her
out in
out. He
public
was
one
like,
day.
we do not use, what did he say? Like,
He said something like,
we do not use labels
you may
or something
enumerate
like that.
yourself, but you cannot indicate whether or not you believe that you are fabulous or something like
Yeah,
that. Because
something like
bitch, you not fabulous. No one
Not
likes
fabulous.
you. They're hideous.
I kind of just wish I went to the trial.
Ooh.
Mary fucking
I really
Jane.
want
I
to
think
cook
we
that
need
lady.
to take the route like they're doing with that senator that voted for his name.
Yelling
shall
at
not
people
be
in-
spoken.
yelling at
But
people in elevators?
They were like, if she doesn't vote the right way, we're going to
Collins.
fund her.
Collins, yeah.
They're going to
In
fund
Maine.
her opponent.
Yeah.
And they raised $3 million in like 2
Oh
fucking
yeah,
days.
Yeah.
they crashed the
Like,
website.
Who's Alyssa's, you
Yeah.
know,
So-
who's her
Dion.
opponent?
So Dion
Dion
Reader
Reader.
is running against
And I
Silverman,
didn't even
and
matter, but
we're
I'm already
putting
on top.
all of
Like-
our
Yeah, you want to hurt Alyssa?
all of our weight.
Support her running.
That's what we're
yeah.
doing. The majority of us are going to be
I mean,
campaigning
for Silverman
her.
to come out and be like, "Okay, guys, calm down. You won. You
Right.
won. Good,
Yeah.
good work,
But
guys.
see, this
You
is
won."
where that you as a group can actually make
Right.
like
Make change.
waves.
Yeah.
And this is gonna be part of like the end of the shows. Like, this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about getting more involved and doing what you ladies and gentlemen do. Like I said,
Yeah.
what you did was awesome. So thank you for doing
So back to what you were asking, what are we doing?
Yeah.
We are trying to organize like some sort of coalition, and we've been talking about it for a while. There are a few of us, and hopefully we'll get together. And I mean, it'll take a little bit, but we have to set up an LLC. Then you have to apply for 501c3 and all that stuff. But
I got a guy.
okay, awesome.
I got a guy to
We
give
need
me
a
a
guy.
guy if I need a guy.
We need a guy.
I got a guy.
We need a guy.
What kind of guy?
Good guy.
So I think the thing that's really come out of this is there has been this notion prior to this that there's the owner operators, they're there's like the Ram W people, like the really sort of high end whatever.
upper
The
echelon.
Clydes,
The upper echelon, and then there's like the regular independent owners, and then there's the workers. But we have somehow all come together, work together. We've banded, and I think we all understand that there are some times where our interests are going to divert. I mean, like, the owners are not going to always be on the same side as
it's never
the
gonna happen, especially in politics.
as the workers, but like, we're willing to work together. Kathy Hollinger of Ram W, she's been very clear about the fact that she wants to work with us, and even if she doesn't agree, she wants to be behind us. And I think that that's like a pretty significant thing that's not really happened before in DC restaurant
I don't
industry.
think there's anything wrong with having a conversation for the greater good.
Right.
Right. And
And
I
that's what
think
you
that
guys
that's
do.
what
That's what
we're
you guys
willing.
started.
Like you said, we're not always going to agree. There's
Right.
always going to be a moment where it's just like, all right, there's some bullshit.
Right. We're
And there's
fighting. We're
gonna be
enemies
some
now.
screaming or whatever like
Yeah.
that. But at the same time, look, as long as we're working towards that greater good and lack of selfishness, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
But I also think, like, now that we together collectively have stood together against this outside enemy, and the outside enemy to me, like, the outside enemy, this might sound fucked up, Rock clearly is our enemy. Rock is the enemy of local restaurant communities everywhere, period. I stand by that. But I kind of feel like the other enemy, or the other adversary, I guess I would say, is the voters, the well-intended, uninformed
the
voters.
white savior, like the white knight, savior complex.
And the black ones too.
No, I mean like the white knight.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, there is like a white. There's certainly like a white savioring, like that guidance counselor that spoke. And
you came
you
to
know
the
these
right
people.
city if you want to save a hoe. The
Right.
second that these people find out, hey, it's a hoe that needs getting saving.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So
Somebody's
I think
funding them little African kids.
Right. Yeah.
That little $5.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So, but I think that we now have collectively we've stood together to face down this really massive adversarial force of the uninformed voters,
took on a lobbyist.
manipulated by these really like tactically.
You took on
Savvy.
a lobby.
Yeah,
You took on a
really
lobbyist.
savvy
This is what
people,
they do
and
for a
we-
living.
And we like got together and we stood together. So I think that having done that and understanding what we're up against, because they are not done with us.
No.
Rock is
They'll be
not
back
done
in
with
2
us,
years. Come
back.
and the voters aren't done with us. I think that we can maybe work together to come up with some concessions and to come up with some real amenities that will make things better for workers in this industry. And I think that maybe the owner operators are going to be a little bit more willing to work with us, because if we don't come up with it together, they will come up with it for us, and it will fucking suck.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that like, you know, their avenue of trying to hit the well-intentioned but uninformed voter is now being cut in half, because now we're addressing those socially charged issues that they kept bringing up.
Yeah, which is we're gonna go into break, but I just want to say that's like what I didn't like is they kept like throwing the sexual harassment thing into it and all that, and that's, you know, we all know our industry is not innocent, but that's not something I just didn't like how they made it
But
all.
77
seems like,
wouldn't have addressed it.
yeah, and I just didn't like how they put it and lumped everything together all as one. All right, we're gonna go to a break. When we come back, we'll talk about Kavanaugh and have a couple more shots.
Speaking about sexual harassment.
Welcome back from our nice little break. This should be a fun little conversation.
What? We're back from the break?
How many of these shows have you done?
I don't know. I didn't know that was...
All right, we're moving forward. So we want to talk about Kavanaugh. We had the hearings this week, or a brief hearing last week about that, and they wanted to push this through, and we all knew what was going to happen. They had the FBI investigation, which was complete bullshit because they didn't really...
So called.
I mean, it was when it's run by the White House, you're not really going to get much done. With that being said, what's your thoughts? You were here last week for that.
Oh, Kavanaugh.
I haven't talked to you in 2 weeks. About
You
this
know
guy.
what? Honestly speaking, this has been my hugest issue the last couple of weeks, though, that I've been watching woman after woman after woman go up there and they say their little piece or whatever, their piece about how he did X, Y, Z to me and so on and so forth. It's the women defending him. Like the one lady was like, you know, he may have done something to that girl, but he was young. So let's not make him the face of sexual predators here in the United States. I'm like, look, lady, he still raped somebody, cuz that doesn't like defeat the purpose or whatever. You know what I mean?
I mean, but he is going to be the face when you go to the Supreme Court. It's not like he's going to be.
Oh yeah, and he's going to be there for a while. He's a young guy. He's
He's not much older than we are.
He's going to be there for a minute.
But
And
it's kind of disgusting for me personally to see how everything that's going through. Like, I like the conversation that's coming up about the women's rights and everything. Everybody's starting to get pissed off what we talked about last week. But what I don't like, and we all knew it was going to go through. We knew they were going to pull some shady shit. They were going to have their FBI investigation, and it wasn't going to be a real investigation. It was just going to be pushed through. I mean, they didn't interview 40 of the main people. So the
Pretty
main,
much.
They didn't investigate anybody.
Well, something I come to realize a couple months ago. Who's that other creep, the dude from Alabama who lost?
Roy Moore.
Right.
Roy
So
Moore.
this girl came in and she was like, "Oh, my boyfriend's really upset. Roy Moore lost." And I was like, "Wait, pause.
What?
Your boyfriend was like down with that?" She was like, "Oh, it's not about the rape thing. It's about the Republican votes." And I was like, "Word."
And that's the problem.
Word.
That's the problem. Like, this whole thing with Kavanaugh has nothing to do about morality or right and wrong. It was all about the abortion. We know what his stance is on that. But that's
Right.
what they don't even care anymore about the politics of what's right or wrong. They care about that vote, and that's to me, that's disgusting. Like, if you as a human being could look at that and look at another human being and say, I value this vote because they're going to vote more like me as opposed to what's right.
Well, I think you have to acknowledge what the Republican Party is and has been for the last 40 years. I think I was talking about this last week before I got real drunk. Well, since before Reagan, since they were able to successfully put Ronald Reagan in place, this is the party that welcomes racists, homophobes, anti-immigrant, pro-war, et cetera, anti-poor, anti-working class. Right. This is the party that has been working since the 70s to basically repeal all of the social safety net protections that were provided under the New Deal. And so when you think about the Republican Party and how this touches all of our lives, outside of the sexual assault, outside of his perjury, outside of God, his demeanor and his unfitness to serve on any court, period.
Yeah, just the way he reacted. You're supposed to be calm and collected when you come up onto Supreme Court. Like, you need to have a
how long was Hillary up there?
Temperament.
How long was Hillary up there?
11 hours, I believe.
11 hours, didn't scream at nobody?
Right.
That little girl?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, she was wearing her lizard suit.
Every once in a while, she does look like a villain from Star Trek.
Yeah. The subject matters that are decided at the Supreme Court are so crucial and important, and they affect people's lives. And so there's nothing about this nomination, nothing about the fact that they refused to even entertain the nomination of milquetoast ass Merrick Garland, who's probably a very nice guy and a solid dude, but like not controversial.
It's just so
he's
hypocritical.
Not fucking Huey Newton. It's just beyond. It's craven. They're not even like, you have to pretend to believe in something to be a hypocrite. They don't even pretend to believe in anything. Yeah. They want all of us to be crushed under their boot, like emotionally, financially, and in terms of like having freedom to walk around in the street. When I read The New Jim Crow, one of the things that stood out in that book, like chapter after chapter after chapter, is so many of the decisions that were codified into law that allows police officers and court systems to beat our asses and lock people up and throw away the key, whether or not they're innocent, with or without due cause, with or without this, with or without that, was decided at the Supreme Court. So this idea that it's a luxury, like, oh, it's not that big a deal, I didn't like Hillary or whatever, it's like, we've lost the Supreme Court for a generation, and we've lost it to this fucking smug ass drunk, and I don't have anything against drunks, I'm a drunk, but like this motherfucker, like look at his fucking face. Are you even kidding me? Like, we have to look at this motherfucker's face sitting next to fucking Clarence Thomas's fucking face, like for like 30 more years. They're not going anywhere.
Until that alcohol
it's
poisoning
disgusting. Kicks in. Not soon enough. It's just obscene.
I mean, the thing is, it was what we were talking about before the show. It's like, who scratches whose back? And he wasn't even a judge, right? When he first came in. When he was a law clerk, they got put into a judge spot, which I didn't know you could do that. I think you actually had to go through the ranks properly.
I mean, certain cities have certain processes. Like, I know in Philly, there's like a judge voting process.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some places it goes on the ballot. Other places just kind of like, hey, bro, you scratched my back.
And that's what this situation was, because George Bush, the last George Bush, put him through. And the reason he actually got the votes this time around is because Bush was going behind the scenes and actually like talking to people, which made me think, you know how all of us keep saying, like, I'd rather have Bush than Trump? I started thinking about it, and I started remembering how I felt during 9/11 and when the Patriot Act all came along, like, and how fucked up Dick Cheney was and all, then Ashcroft. I'm like, do we really want them back? They're like, I kind of, as much as I think, no, Trump is a douche, I'd rather have his comical ass and the sadistic fucking Bush and Cheney years back. I really feel like I would never want those back.
Do you think Bush walks around his house saying Kanye doesn't care about black people?
You know, I've been thinking about that this week. I've been thinking about that.
Real shit?
Yeah, because it was a meme I saw. That's why I've been thinking about it, because it actually made sense. It's one of those things like, makes sense. But I also think Kanye's doing this as
performance.
It's a performance art.
Kanye's been crazy forever.
He just wants attention.
No, I don't even think it's that. I don't even think it's that. So one of the things, so my mom's always been like, yo, you need to find you a no. Like somebody be like, hey, don't do that, you'll die, or whatever.
Yeah.
I think Kanye's mom was that no. I mean,
once
Kanye's always been nuts.
But once she died, he went off the deep end.
Right.
I'm
And, like,
tired of that
what's-
trope. I'm tired of that narrative.
Yeah,
that
but I mean,
he-
my mom is my best friend. If she passes, I'm gonna fucking
He's a grown fucking man.
You're gonna do
he's,
what?
He's struggling with
Exactly.
mental.
Let's go even
I
farther.
need to
off the-
prepare for this now. Jesus.
He's a grown man. He struggles with mental illness, and he has a huge platform to be irresponsible and say
he's completely
fucked up,
irresponsible.
disgusting things, and he chooses it again and again and again and again.
But is that
and
an
it's not
act?
Kim's fault? I don't care. I don't care if it's an act.
I like that.
I don't care if it's
See,
performance
I
art.
do care.
Why?
I do
Tell me
care
more.
because I fucking love Kanye.
Old Kanye or new Kanye?
Who cares? Kanye is
his-
Kanye.
his new
Kanye
music?
gave me 3 classics in a row.
Sure.
Kanye,
But his-
Kanye, my freshman year at Howard, he dropped College Dropout.
So you like the old
You know
Kanye?
what I mean? I love that
but
shit.
since he's been on
808s
that-
and Heartbreaks,
that
all the
auto-tune-
other
Yeah,
stuff or
but
whatever.
here's-
That auto-tune
Our
bullshit.
Dark Twisted,
like,
Dark Twisted
deuces.
Fantasy or whatever. That album is amazing.
All right.
Kanye gave me some beautiful music for a long time, and now I got to sit here and watch you be crazy.
Okay,
It's
so
like that crazy cousin, bruh. I love you
his-
so much, but damn it, you were hurting my feelings.
It's
His
almost
sa-
like Michael Jackson all over again.
Oh,
If he starts
that's
doing
not
that,
fair.
I mean, I'm
yet.
just saying-
That's
I mean,
no,
not
but she's
fair
right
yet.
though. I see.
I'm just saying.
I think
The
that's
American culture would much rather. I mean, look at what we've done. Not even American, but this current culture that we're in, like worldwide. Amy Winehouse was our Aretha Franklin, and we would have rather watched her smoke crack on YouTube and die than treat her like Aretha Franklin. Michael Jackson was a hero, except for the 10 years before he died, and everybody called him Wacko Jacko. But everybody likes to forget about that part.
Well, everybody's a good person once they die.
And then so
I don't know
Kanye.
if everybody's
This
forgotten.
is the argument at all of my family funerals. Like, oh, I loved him so much. I'm like, he was a piece of shit. Do you not remember him being? I got one aunt who told me to my face because like it's me and like my other cousin who were the darkest people in the room, and everybody else is just real light skinned. Like she flat out was like, yeah, y'all just must be the mailman's baby. I was like, you old trifling bitch. Like,
We all have that one.
but then
aunt.
she died. But then she died, and everybody was like, "Oh, she was so sweet."
she
I was like,
wasn't.
"Fuck her."
wasn't.
What do you mean she was sweet?
Listen. I have a grandmother. I have 2 of them on the way out, but one of them hates me, and it's because she's senile, religious as shit, and she's over there because I don't
She
believe
can
because I don't
smell
really,
your evil.
Yeah.
Tell you like
so
that
like when she
BBC
dies, I mean, I'm gonna be like whatever, but I'm like fucking good riddance. You were crazy as fuck, bro. I love you, but fuck out the door. Like,
Marcus, what's your safe word?
oh shit, I forget.
Oh, what was my safe
what
word?
was
No, but
mine?
seriously,
Your
what is
safe
your
word is
berries,
passion fruit.
berries.
Yeah, passion fruit
Berries?
and berries over there. Look at you guys, little fruit
science.
salad.
Oh,
I know I say this every time, but I never mind.
Fuck it. Why stop now?
I'm just gonna
eat
throw your
ass.
safe word up on your behalf. Flag on the play.
So, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, he's been one of the most conservative judges here. And it goes back to when he was with Kenneth Starr. He attacked the Clintons during his testimony. And it goes back because he was in an investigation, and all his investigations were around and were concerning of President Bill Clinton. Now, we all know Clinton isn't no fucking saint, but this is where that divide is, and this is where the Bushes come in, and this is where they draw the lines, and that's why the same reason, like, where James Baker declared Bush president over Gore, it's the scratching of the backs, and there's the divide, and that's what it got me thinking, like I said, do I really want the Bush years back, or would I rather have this guy who is destroying it from the top? But when shit like this is going down, this is when you need to pay attention to what bills are being passed right now. Because while we're paying attention to sexual harassment and Kavanaugh, fucking the Senate is passing all types of shit right now behind her.
Oh, crazy shit. But
And
do you know
that-
how
and that
hard it is
always
to watch
happens.
C-SPAN? That's the problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I like C-SPAN.
You are a fucking liar.
I will get on there. I will watch
Devil is a liar. They ain't nobody ever been like, damn, yo, it's 5 o'clock. I need to put this fucking Senate meeting on.
C-SPAN.
My
is the
grandfather
shit.
would do stuff like that.
Yeah.
My grandfather did as well. And I would watch it with his...
My grandfather's drank and hated everyone. That was just about it.
That's it.
That's about it.
So in terms of like whether we'd prefer, or like each of us individually would prefer the Bush years over what we're experiencing now, the Bush years were dark. That was
That's what I'm
dark.
yeah. They were
Like,
s-
but
Bush
so
years got
so
us
I feel
here.
like are we all? I feel like we're maybe close to the same age.
Ish.
Torres and Graham are the same age. What are you
I'm-
guys?
I'm 40.
Okay.
26.
No.
I'm
No.
I'm
But-
52.
even remember
But you're
26.
considerably- yeah. So I mean, I was a young mom. Like Dorian, I think was My daughter was maybe 6 when George W. Bush was elected. And like, I just remember being in my 20s and a young mom and seeing what looked to me to be the complete destabilization of our democracy, and like what I was erroneously led to believe how the government worked and what protections were in place. And, you know, it just was like a comedy of errors. We had fucking Donald Rumsfeld's crazy ass up there, and like Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney literally didn't have. Dick Cheney didn't have like a human heart for a period of time.
He really didn't. He
didn't have a heart.
I mean,
this motherfucker was so. He literally shot a man in the chest.
No, the face.
Face and chest. It was like buckshot.
I know
but like,
that this is not going to sound good, but he is the fucking man for that. You shot somebody in the face and made them apologize to you. That's gangster.
I mean, like there was just so many things that happened in that like I never believed could be possible. And so then September 11th, and then we're going to war against Iraq, and we're going to be greeted as liberators, and like all this. And it was like it was so obvious, and we're like, oh my God,
you're doing this shit right in front of us. Do you really think we don't know what's going on?
But there was maybe a veneer of civility over the whole thing that we don't have now, and I don't know. I'm an older woman now.
I think it's the so far factor.
Yeah,
it's like hold my
how
beer.
far?
No, like all right. So my dad used to make this joke all the time. You'd be like, oh, it's the worst day of my life. He'd look at you and be like, so far. You know what I mean?
That's kind
Bush years. This is the worst thing that ever happened.
Yeah.
So far.
8 years later, so far.
So I've been watching politics since I was 8 years old because my grandfather, and I've always seen it go one way and it goes back and forth. It's kind of annoying for me, like, cause it's the Reagan and Bush years, and it's the Clinton years, and it goes to Bush again, and it goes to Obama, and that's the only presidents I've known because I was
as an adult. Yeah.
And you know, like, I know there's something coming around the corner, and I'm scared to death that he's going to get another 4 years.
You know, your old ass was at Kennedy's funeral.
Probably. I was saluting. Mm-hmm. But no, like... John. Goddamn it, I wanted him to...
R.I.P. John.
Here's a cheers to John.
Take a shot.
See, he should have been...
He never should have been flying that plane.
Did you ever watch any of those documentaries about that? Like,
no. Have you ever heard some of
it was like the Kennedy curse,
those old black dude conspiracy theories on that? It's like he got killed like 6 months beforehand. They just had to like throw his body in the plane or whatever. Like, yo, old black dudes come up with the best
they really
conspiracy
do.
theories.
I love that about my people. Like, what?
Where are these people hanging out?
My personal favorite one is the
like,
you know, when like the airplanes go by and there's like that vapor trail.
Oh yeah,
I believe that.
I was out, so my dad is like conspiracy black dude, like nobody's business.
Bring your dad on the show.
No. I love that man to death, yo, but seriously, no one would get a talking word. He'd be interrupting you and then bring the
where you get it from?
Watch your mouth for. What I'm saying is, no, but like, you know, the chemtrails or whatever the hell it was, they were like, look, that right there, that's chemical dust to make you compliant to the government. And it was like this whole like 45-minute speech after it happened. I was like, yo, we never made it in the house because you were just talking to me the whole time.
So now we're tasting chemtrails.
So now we got the chemtrail, bro. Like,
I mean, listen, when I was younger and getting into politics, like, I was all about conspiracy theories, and the internet was just like exploding. So like I was going down those rabbit holes, and I read a couple books that. There's one book I read by David Icke, and he starts going off. A lot of the things he says is about like symbolism and stuff like that, which I really thought was awesome and really like opened my eyes up to a lot of things. But then he went to the left and started talking about the lizard people and shit, and I was just like,
people?
And I'm like, I don't know if I can't get down.
Can you tell me a little bit about these lizard people?
Oh, these lizard people are among us. You don't know if it's me. You don't even know if it's you until you've been woken up yet.
Yeah, it's more or less like the Matrix.
It's like an alien thing.
I'll bring a book. You know how they say like. What's that show on A&E or one of those shows like the Ancient Aliens?
Ancient Aliens
and
with
some
the crazy
of that shit,
looking dude?
some of that shit, that dude's awesome.
Bro, I would love to blow tree with him.
Some of that shit actually makes a lot. You would think it makes sense. It sounds right? Like, not that I don't believe it. I just think it sounds right.
Okay, to sound like the crazy person. The truth is out there.
All right, X-File guy.
No, but like, all right.
But no, I get that because everything listen.
No, that what was that? not the Louvre shit, the big one in London or whatever, the big museum or whatever.
Oh, yeah,
they've got the big tomes from like Egypt or whatever, like the ones from like Ra's Temple
Some
and all
of
that
that
stuff.
shit's weird,
and
right?
There's like rocket ships.
And
like flying saucers and like old buildings and all this other stuff or whatever. So I'm just saying, hey,
well,
bro.
here's the thing. Like,
Also for us to be God's favorite out of all this universe and all these stars, for real.
That's fake news.
That's fake.
Right. Like,
So I don't believe that we actually select a president. Part of me, from these books I read when I was in my early 20s, which scared the shit out of me. I was like, I can't read anymore this fucking book. Like, I would have to take like times to read it. But no, I feel like the X-Files, like, when you are elected president, you go into this dark, smoky back room, and
they
like,
tell you how the fuck it's gonna be.
boom, like, all right, here you are, and then they show you the Kennedy assassination from a different view.
Yeah.
And you've never, that's not been on TV. And like, all right, so you work for us now,
Right.
So it's kind of part of me wants to go with the flow with the presidents and whatnot. Even though I know this guy's a disaster, I feel like you have the world, you have the ultimate people who run it. This bullshit between Russia, China, and the United States, I just think is fucking a farce. And
Do you believe in the Illuminati?
Yeah.
Do you?
To a sense, to a point, I don't think they're just dark secret society, but I think
I absolutely love that argument.
But I think it's based off money. I think it's control. Yeah. We'll never go to war. If we go to war with China, it's going to be so we look the other direction, and shit's going to happen. Money rules this world. So why would China want to get in a war with us?
Right.
Like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Especially because we owe them money.
Yeah, if they kill us.
If we get into a fight, bro, you ain't getting nothing from me.
See,
like all
I can see us going to war.
$48
I see us going to war with
Like,
Russia.
you better be real gangster about this fight.
I see us getting to war with Russia just because we're both shady.
I feel like that war's been coming since like the end of World War II, though.
Oh,
I mean, it's literally like what the Cold War starts the day after World War II ends.
And we've been the NASA thing and everything like that. Like,
and due to Rocky and 80s movies, we all
That
hate
didn't
Russians.
help. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So you brought up the Illuminati. Go ahead.
Yes. Oh, I mean, so I have a person in my life who I love very deeply who's like really like all about the fucking Illuminati.
Ouch.
And I'm like, like if you ask me to go with you on the narrative that there is like a cabal of very, 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 very wealthy, powerful people who are like kind of moving pieces around on a game board. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess I stopped just short of like the
sacrificing.
I
don't get
the
down with that.
Illuminati, like the symbol, like when Bill Clinton went over to Korea to negotiate North Korea to negotiate the release of those journalists. I can't remember their names. I feel like one of them. I'm not gonna fuck up their names by trying to guess. Yeah. But he went over there, and there was a picture on the Washington Post, and he's sitting between them, and he was doing this thing with his knees, like he had his hands on his knees like this. And somebody was like, "Yeah, that's some Mason shit. Like that's a Mason. Like he's like throwing up like hand signs." And I'm like,
probably just
"Come
an
on."
old dude who sat down and they
Yeah,
struck
but
a picture
the
before
Masons-
his fingers got
Right.
together.
He got his arthritis or something.
So I'm going
Right.
to bring this book in, so you guys can just gaze on
All
it.
right.
It's what I found fascinating was it was about the symbolisms of the flags or things like the Exxon. Perfect example, Exxon thing. It's a double cross. It goes back to the Knights of Templar. So they tie all these things, and you're like, that makes a lot of sense. Now it doesn't necessarily believe the shit, but it makes, it tends to make a lot of sense when you put those things together. You getting your stretching out, Rocky?
Yeah, you know me.
Oh, do you know this young lady loves Rocky?
What?
She's watched them all.
Oh, even the bad ones.
What? You mean like?
So you know he's from
wait.
Philly,
There's
so
only
this
one.
is-
There's only one bad one.
Bullshit. Tommy Morrison was hard.
Five.
That's
Tommy
the,
Gunn.
That's the only
That was
one that's
five. Tommy
bad.
Morrison was bad?
That's the only one that's bad. They even changed the music in that one.
I mean,
Did
Rocky.
they?
All right.
yeah.
I submit
The one
that
with the-
Rocky 4 is not a good movie. I love it,
Is that the Russian one?
but yes, Ivan Drago.
what was the?
It's not
the
a
second
good
best
movie.
one.
That's a
It's
great
not.
one.
It's not.
Rank the Rockies.
Watch it again.
No, watch the
Challenge accepted.
They're like $25.
Here we are, right here. We got a young man from South Philly out here doing what he needs to do. He just beat Clubber Lang in Rocky 3. He beat Apollo Creed in Rocky 2. He's coming up in the gang. He took an ass whooping. He took an ass whooping, not just from Clubber Lang, but Mr. T, who was at the
Clubber
time
Lang, no,
the
Hulk
man.
Hogan. Hulk Hogan?
So I got
No,
the
no,
names.
Clubber Lang is Mr. T.
I know.
Oh,
that's-
I'm sorry.
Hold on.
Pay attention to
So
what
I
I'm
got
saying,
the
guys.
name wrong last week. Last week I said it was
you got it
Hot
wrong.
Lips. It was Thunder Lips.
Thunder Lips. That sounds
I
right.
was wrong. So
Oh,
I
you're
said
talking about
Hulk Hogan.
Hulk
I said
Hogan?
Hot
Yeah.
Lips, but then I thought about it later on.
Thunder
Hot
Lips.
Lips was on MASH.
Hooligan.
Loretta Swit on MASH.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Hot
fucking
Lips
show.
Houlihan.
Such a good show.
But back to Rocky.
Yeah, anyway.
No, Rocky Four is an amazing, inspiring story about a young man coming up through.
First of all,
he was already made. He was already made at that
avenging
point.
the death,
First
avenging
of
the
all-
death
That's
of a
better.
best
Okay.
friend.
So
And
Apollo-
don't forget, and from what we found out in Creed, who won that fight at the end of Rocky 3?
Okay.
Apollo Creed.
Okay, let's just establish a couple of things. One, Apollo had no fucking business getting into the ring with Ivan Drago.
I didn't say he had business
He
doing it,
didn't
but he
train.
still avenged his
He
friend.
didn't take it seriously. He's up there dancing around with
James
James
Brown.
Brown in a top hat, like he's just getting into the ring with
got
like
his ass
JoJo the
whooped.
Schmo,
Right.
and like Ivan Drago did not give a fuck. So one, you're avenging the death of your friend who basically killed himself from being dumb. That's just Darwin. And then the montage, like the training montage. The training montage wasn't even good. No.
The training montage was not
The training
good.
montage.
Wait. I'm waiting. I'm
He's
waiting. I'm
running.
waiting.
He's running on the
waiting.
tundra in like a bomber jacket with
Yes.
like a wool interior. Please, are you kidding me? And he's like running up a mountain.
Right.
And then
the logs.
his speech, I can change. If I can change, then you can change. We all can change. It was like nothing. And I say this as a person. I love that movie.
Finish.
I love that
I
movie.
got a rebuttal.
It's not good. Boom.
Okay, so I played Rocky 4 at Looking Glass Lounge
How many people left?
2 weeks ago. Okay, waiting for another show that we were playing on there. Guess what happened when that fight came on? The entire room lost their minds. Like
Even though
they
they've
had
all seen it.
You've seen this fight 1,000 times. You already know. Rocky takes some shots. Rocky get his whole ass whooped through that whole thing. And that last
Rocky had
5
2 concussions that
seconds,
fight.
and it's boom, da boom, da and then he drops, and Drago doesn't get back up, and Rocky doesn't even raise his hands at first. He spins around, and then he raises his arms, and then like anyone who went to Philadelphia public school cannot speak correctly. But what I'm saying is that movie is absolutely amazing. And then for the time period, for us to beat the Russians, like I brought up earlier,
Yeah.
it was a quality thing right there. Trust me, you never want to get in front of an Italian
I
dude
mean,
that just saw Rocky.
I saw
No
that
shit. No
movie.
shit. So how do you think the new Rocky is doing? They're doing the
Creed?
same.
Yo, I
or
cold
Creed.
cried.
But the new
in the
Creed,
theater.
no, not the first one. The new Creed, he's
Right.
fighting Drago's
Drago's
son.
son, yeah.
Oh, so
the
I
second
haven't
one?
seen any of that.
Well, I
That
just saw
sounds-
the trailer. And
That sounds dumb to me.
I'm assuming
I
that
don't
it's
know.
his
I'll
son.
watch it.
This is gonna be amazing. I can't wait.
Another Rocky coming out. Who ran out of money?
It's Creed, actually.
No, they so did you
It's
see
got Michael
Creed,
B.
Molly?
Jordan on it. I'm
Yeah.
not saying.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I
Can we
make
talk
out with
about
the guy, but I
Can we
pause.
talk about the Illuminati again real quick? Can we just rewind
Yes,
that track?
let's tap
Top
back.
select.
Let's tap back in.
What do you think?
All I'm gonna say is that it seems like when people have like mental like breaks or whatever you want to call it, you know, that they all say the same shit about Freemasons and the Illuminati.
They really do.
And I don't think they're all communicating that well with each other. So like, I'm just saying, man.
So maybe they're attuned to something like a
Yeah.
frequency
I mean-
that they're understanding something
I've
that we
had
don't
group
see.
hallucinations. Like, I've eaten a bunch of acid with friends in high school, and like we had the exact same like absolute hallucination, right? Like,
I can second that.
It's not impossible. I mean, you could blame a majority of the Bible, right, on like people eating moldy rye
Had
bread.
to be. Yeah.
And they're like, he had one fish and then he had 100. Like, no, bro, you were tripping.
It was a
balls.
miracle. It was a
Like-
miracle.
Yeah, it wasn't a miracle.
always
The
had
Salem witch
100
trials.
fish.
I digress, right? But like,
But no, you're right though. With
I'm
the
just
Bible.
saying, I feel like, you know, like, I don't know. I just feel like people that like kind of like flip a little bit inside their brains, like they all say the same shit. And so you kind of got to wonder, like,
if it's one person
are we
saying
the
the
ones
crazy-
that are just like tuning out to these frequencies that
No,
they're
we-
tuning into?
I wonder that
No,
sometimes.
when we are though, you think about it, we are. When we like you've done acid, like I've done acid. So when we do those trips, it opens. We see.
Right.
We feel. We can see the air. We can see the trees breathing. Like
see the walls breathing.
you can see it, and so you have to think about. Yeah, you are doing a drug or something that's making you hallucinate, but. Are you really hallucinating, or are you just shifting to the left and actually
Right.
seeing a different dimension in a sense?
So I think two different things. One, in terms of people like having very similar like archetypes of like paranoid thinking about like these powerful figures and the symbology and whatnot. I think that there are certain like archetypal stories and archetypal images that are just deeply embedded in our almost our like DNA, like in our human experience, so that when people have a break, I think a lot of the narratives that they come up with just kind of tap into the same like psychic like, I can't think of the word, psychic touchstones, for lack of a better word, but not necessarily because they're seeing something that is real and true that we can't see. It's just there's certain like stories that we're fed culturally that come out in this particular way, because people, I think a lot of people, particularly in our culture, who experience those breaks are people that have been like oppressed, or or like they have a chemical predisposition that is triggered by something that like opens up this thing.
Or maybe they actually were in the middle and saw it and couldn't take it anymore. And instead of whistleblowing, they cracked.
Maybe.
I mean,
I guess like part of what I'm speaking from is like somebody very like a person in my family who's very deeply chronically mentally ill and like has a lot of paranoia and like these stories that I'm like, grew up in the same house,
So how does his stories or her stories like differ? Like how, like you say they have stories, like where do they come from? What are they like? Is it like a story that you both have lived and theirs is so far off?
Yeah, I mean it's it's just the human brain is just such a complicated like labyrinth of.
It's the most genius computer there ever is, and no matter what we build, we can't build anything like the brain.
But at the end of the day, we're fucking mammals, so it's like you're trapped in this like mammalian.
So we're
body.
aliens, is what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Sure,
we were built from aliens with the alien brains.
With mams, we're mam aliens.
I feel like an alien.
Mammalians.
Well, one thing that like I look at the way how Hollywood's like. Set the stage for a lot of people, because remember like back, well, not remember, but like in the 40s and 50s when they talked about UFOs, they'd be like these like pie tins and shit. Now they're like these fucking Battleship Galactica kind of like Death Star type fucking things. Like, so I have an issue with. Part of me wants to believe it, but then did the spaceships really evolve over 100 years, or did the fucking rednecks watch TV and fucking grow? Welcome back.
So I have a friend that thinks he was kidnapped by aliens.
Wow.
All right. What happened to him?
And like he's a very normal guy. Like, he's a very, very normal guy.
Was he anal probed?
And no, but he was working.
They're gonna travel
he was
40
working
billion
Coachella.
light years.
So he does like festival production stuff, and he was working Coachella.
He's done
and
a
he
lot
wasn't
of drugs.
drinking. Like he wasn't drinking at this time, or like I always joke he's got hollow feet because the boy can just pour whiskey down his throat and never see him drunk, But he was like cutting back on drinking, and so it was like at the end of Coachella, they had to drive like 35 minutes out to this house party, and he was chilling with some friends, and he purposely had like 1 or 2 drinks, like was super chilling, right? Fast forward, he wakes up, he's on the ground in a pile. He's got like 6 guns aimed at him, and they're like, what the fuck are you doing here? He's like, I don't know. Where am I?
Wow.
He's somehow like miles deep into a restricted compound with like 15-foot fences, chain, like barbed wire, whole bit. Has absolutely no idea how he got there. They questioned him for like an hour and a half. He really has no idea. They finally let him go. This is like Indio, California, middle of the fucking desert, like not too far from like area, whatever the fuck, 51. Right? And this dude's like super. This is like a good friend of mine of many years.
This is fucking awesome.
Like he doesn't,
This is amazing.
So they question him. He has no real answer for what happened. So he leaves and he's like, "Yo,
and
can I get a like ride back to the festival?" And they're like, "No." He had to walk back for like an hour and a half. Like he's exhausted by the time he gets there. But when he starts walking, he's not exhausted. His shoes aren't dirty. There's no indication that the motherfucker walked for 45 minutes to get there, right?
Wow.
Like everything about his appearance is clean, except for now he's got to walk for an hour and a half, and by the time he gets there, he's exhausted, whatever. He goes home. He's like shook up by the whole thing, super weirded out. Him and his girlfriend are sitting on the couch talking, and he like scratches the back of his neck, and he's got like this scab, and as soon as it pops, like blood just starts pouring down his throat, right? Or down the back of his neck, like something fucking probed him or something. And then he started trying to like, looking up shit online, and like people were talking about like when this has happened to them, like what they saw, and he starts having like, he like kind of remembers being like rolled down a hallway like in a hospital or something like that, and that's about it. And that's pretty much it, I mean, that's the whole story. But like,
had the time
I don't
of his
know,
fucking
man.
Life.
Or not.
That's pretty compelling. Like, it's one thing to just wake up in the middle of the desert and be like, how'd I get here? But it's like wake up with like fucking like army officials with guns on your neck and being like, yo, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, he didn't climb that fence. Like, has no real explanation as to how he got there. Now, he could have like gotten dosed with acid and just had a really good time and like
Yeah, but he would have been dirty as fuck.
conquered. But right, like
That's what I'm
nothing
saying.
about the story made any sense.
I feel like he was punked.
That's a hell of a punk. That's a hell of a
Elaborate.
on
If
like
you're gonna go to
restricted
death-
government property.
they
though,
don't
that's
think-
like
but-
one.
But
Some-
I mean, I
that's some
feel like
Mason
those
shit
people were
right there.
actors. I mean, I just feel like this.
Except there was no like at the end. There was no reveal.
They
like-
probably like.
It's like,
they
hey,
probably
you're
like.
gonna think you're crazy for the rest of your fucking life. Like,
you don't
I feel
believe-
like they probably like they went to for they were gonna do this and they're like, oh my god, this is gonna be the best episode ever, and then they took it down to legal. Legal's like, man, you can't fucking do this. Like, you're gonna get fucking sued.
I love Stevie D, but he's not that cool. You know what I mean? I mean, he is
know.
that cool, but he's not that famous to
Yeah.
get punked, you know?
That
But yeah,
sounds true.
crazy
That'd be a
story.
fucking
I've never really
incredible.
believed in like alien abductions
Does he
before,
have a
but
scar?
that has a little merit to it.
Does he have a scar in the back
I
of
don't know
his
if he has
neck?
a scar. I'll have to follow up with him on that one, but it's a pretty crazy story.
I
right?
have follow up questions.
Yeah, well, maybe we could do like an AMA with him.
I like how Kavanaugh took us to the Illuminati and fucking Thank you, Kavanaugh. We're gonna take a break here in a few minutes. Molly, you ready for it?
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, sure.
Oh yeah, are we ready? We're
Go.
doing
Go.
this.
Let's do it.
You're live.
What is up for the final segment and block of the show? I'm kind of excited about this. Molly and I have been talking about this all week, or actually, Molly's just been yelling at me about this. About people are bitching and complaining about the Supreme Court, and yeah, it sucks. But where it starts, and I know this from having a political family, being in politics since I was 8, it starts at the bottom. It starts at the grassroots. It starts at the bottom. It starts in your local community. It's everything that you two did, you three did. It's what you did when you ran earlier this year. It's like these are the things about being more into local politics. Is that's where it starts. Because if you look all over the country, California and Texas are very similar. One's very blue, one's very red. The reason why one is very red is because they don't give a fuck about your votes, and they change the lines that make them vote. They close down DMV so you can't get registered. We are fortunate and lucky that we live in such a blue state. Reason I
Not
don't live in a
state.
or not state, we should be
Bubble.
a fucking state, and that's to be one thing we should start looking at. People who live here should start looking at the statehood. And
It'll be
really-
a state in 5 years because white people will not tolerate it. When this city
Good
tips
fucking
the
point.
scales to being like more of a white city, they'll hold a concert at the soccer stadium. They'll get Katy Perry to sing, and people across
is
the
fucking
country
Lily
will be
Tomlin
like,
will be here.
yeah, they'll be like, oh my god, this is an outrage.
Jane
These
Fonda
white
will
people
come.
are being
Jane Fonda-
deprived the
Jane
right
Fonda will
to
be
vote,
back.
and they'll have it. 5
Last
years,
time
we're
that
good.
was on the,
Mark my
the
words.
docket to vote or whatever, I actually voted against it because, like, I just had the kid, and like here in DC, you go to any school with state tuition.
yeah.
That
yeah.
was my thought process. Like,
Yeah,
all right, be a state
yeah,
after he
yeah.
gets into
You can
college,
go to
you
any
know what I mean?
state
They're like-
school.
Any state
Yeah, yeah.
school.
And
But-
you don't
Pros
get
and cons.
state. You don't get it. It's there's caveats, and it's not going to be vote for statehood.
So and here's the thing.
It's too
so
long. Look,
important.
I'd rather things change and change properly instead of my,
mean
been a
77?
dad, been a dad 6 months, and all I'm thinking is like, damn, how can I save some money real fast, yo?
So part of the reason
You
this
know?
came up is because a local young lady, Jessica Raven, she has a daughter who is in one of the elementary schools. I believe it's in your school, actually.
Langley.
Langley.
on T
She
Street.
noticed that the head of the PTA was supporting Kavanaugh.
Yes, she
And then
is.
she realized that she was not being ran against.
Mm-hmm.
So she was like, you know what? I'm going to run against her. And she has, I think she's had like 20, 30,000 retweets through all over the
yeah.
country. Someone from Canada said, I've never rooted for a PTA. Fucking.
There are people from Ohio, from Florida.
So and this just got me thinking, and much of our conversations this week, we've been talking about local politics. Get involved. Whether it's grassroots, whether it's fucking feeding the needy, like, getting out in your community and actually doing things. So this last segment, I want to focus on that and really start talking into it. And that's why with you ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to talk about what are you guys going to do about 77, not even 77 anymore, as a group, as a whole. What are you guys now going to do as activists or politicians or lobbyists? Now where do we go here to make the city better?
You know what sucks, honestly speaking? Like when 77
Besides
happened.
Philadelphia?
I mean, watch your mouth because you're from Delaware again?
Della who?
Are you from Delaware? Have we talked
Della
about
what?
this?
Where?
Yeah.
What was that?
Della who?
Let's keep it.
Um,
Enough about
local.
where.
We're local.
No. Like honestly speaking, like when this whole 77 thing happened, my first thought was, God, you gonna really fucking make me pay attention to local politics,
Right?
Exactly.
Like I was really
about
like,
time
loaded
you
I don't pay attention.
and like spent like the last year, like this some bullshit. Like I don't get like fuck a councilman, fuck all that shit. Look, just fix this pothole and let me I'm cool.
Let
with
me
the
live
black
my
cops.
life.
I'm
And
cool
that's
with the black cops I
exactly
got right
how
now.
we got here.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's
Welcome
exactly what
to
I'm about to say.
2018.
Here's my silly ass at 33 being like, fuck all this bullshit or whatever. And now that I'm paid attention and shit, I'm like, damn it. Now
what
Now
do
you
do?
can't not pay
now I
attention,
can't
right?
not pay
Pay
attention.
attention.
Right.
I'm the same.
Because
I
I
didn't
don't
pay
like
attention to shit.
I don't like when people just spring shit up. I'm like, wait, DC, what? They found Godzilla? I'd have been mad as shit. You know what I mean? But
That was
again,
my safe word last week.
what, Godzilla?
It was.
It would be. But seriously, it's like now that I paid attention, like heard some things that are going on local politics wise or whatever.
Now you wanna
like
get
they're-
involved.
They're voting on some lot that the city owns apparently, and
You
it's
know
like, are
about
they going to
this one.
hold on to it?
Is that the one?
All
where-
this other crap or whatever. I'm like, yo, what? Like, bro, sell that bullshit. Like,
No,
No,
what happened?
No, because you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna sell it to a developer for $1.
yeah, we're over that. We're in that space.
But
now.
what
That's where we are.
who got closed down
That's
this
where
week
we
that
are.
you were passionate about? That didn't-
There's a whole group of businesses in Deanwood, like a little strip mall, like a daycare and a hair cuttery. Not a hair cuttery, but a like
Deanwood,
hair
it's like
salon.
Northeast.
And the mayor made a deal with one of the developers for a bunch of money, and he showed up overnight and cited like environmental hazards and like padlocked all their gates. So like women or men were showing up with
out
their
of work.
children to drop them off for daycare. Couldn't.
What the
People were
fu-
showing up to their
And
own
Bowser let
businesses.
this?
That they, well, it was like the day after Bowser announced like this huge like partnership with this developer. So to bring back statehood, the reason why statehood really, really matters is that if you're a state in the United States, like there's like a developmental plan. You have to do like developmental impacts. You have to get shit passed. And if it doesn't make sense in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, it doesn't get developed. Well, guess what? We're not a fucking state, and that's why we're in the position that we're in.
Might
That's
as well
why
be
none of us can
might as well
afford
be
to
like
live
an
here.
Indian reservation.
That's why none of us have the proper services that we have. That's why everything is being gentrified because the
Gray.
developers
Mayor
are
Gray.
winning.
'Cause Mayor
Period.
Don't put that on Gray. Don't put that on Gray. It goes
It's not
back.
only him.
It goes back.
But he
Anthony Williams.
All right,
Anthony
all right, all right,
Williams.
You're right. I'll give you
And
that
like gentrification has kind of been the plan for a very long time.
because money rules, money wins.
Yeah, it does.
It doesn't matter what color you have, money wins.
I mean, all of a sudden, DC got real pretty real fast.
Real
Yeah.
fast,
Yeah.
real
When
fast.
I got
You
to Howard. I got to Howard in 03, and they used to tell us not to leave campus. It's
Right.
just that my ignorant ass was like, "Fuck
They
that!
still
I'm
tell
not
them
staying
that.
on campus."
They still tell them that.
What? Because I be shocked where I be seeing these kids at.
Yeah, but
Big shout outs to the house.
I forgot I was gonna say.
Oh my god!
Poor Valerie keeps getting interrupted. I'm gonna be the Valerie interruption tool. Flag on the play.
But
You said don't blame
to
that
be
on
to
Gray.
be fair,
You were saying
she's a
don't blame that on
talker.
Gray.
Oh, I'm a talker. I'm gonna get my word in.
No, but
Words.
we need like a guest meter to see who like talks the most,
Yeah.
because then I could be like
Oh, we don't
bullshit.
need that. We already know.
Oh no.
Where's the air
Y'all
horn
full of
noise?
shit. I interrupt the most, but I do
That-
not talk the
that
most.
is true.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's
I
the
will not
that's the
disagree with
Philly in
that.
you know.
Well, that's terrible follow through.
I mean, what is Della what does?
I
right
think
now?
we should be rewarding you for this
This is
behavior.
not a baby shot. This is
I'm sorry. I was not paying attention.
Molly,
Thank
would you like
you.
one?
No, no, thank you.
Thank you. That's
Sorry.
perfect. Thank you. Cheers, dears.
Bushmills has been draining the life out of my soul every time I drink it lately. I think I got you all on camera drinking.
So I feel like in terms of mobilizing the service industry as a political force, and we've been having these meetings and having conversations, I'm gonna be honest and expressing some frustration that we've had like a good a good like dwindling number of people who came to me, like just specifically around this issue that affects all of our livelihoods. We had like a good core group, but people just couldn't be bothered to be involved. And when you think about how many people bartend, wait tables, owner operator, I talked to friends of mine. I was like, hey, this thing is happening. Like, do you want to get involved? Here's this way, here's this way, here's that way. And people who have been as blessed by this industry as I have been blessed by this industry couldn't be bothered. Yeah. And so there's this real, like, this, I think there's a real sense, and I think that this is maybe just a microcosm of politics in general, that other people will do the work for you. And so here are like we had a meeting, and it was just, there were 6 people. There were 6 people there. And we're like, all right, what are we going to do? 4? Was it 4?
4 of us.
Was I at that one? The one at the Tabard?
Obviously.
I think that one I couldn't go to.
You were not there.
Yeah, I would have been there if I think I was having surgery, so otherwise I would totally.
I think that's
no excuse, Valerie.
I think that's a fair
Surgery
excuse.
does not excuse you
Get
from
up
your
off your
civic duty.
surgery bed.
But I think the thing
But did you work that night?
No, I had actual surgery.
Hang on, she worked like 2 days later.
I did,
like crazy person.
I took 10 days off. But
She was a crazy person. She was like, yeah, I'm back to work.
Because we're all insane in this fucking industry.
We are.
Well, it's a
But to
necessity.
speak to that, like, you know, we have, there's what, like 40,000 people in this industry here in
Second
DC?
largest one in this.
Next to the government, next to the
And
federal
we need
government.
to take advantage of that.
And we had literally,
Bartenders and
at
government
most,
officials.
30 people showing up to meetings.
That was a good meeting.
And like, you know, I mean, I think the thing that we're really concerned about is if, like, let's say we come together and create this organization, like how many people are we going to be able to mobilize to actually join the group?
And if they don't join the group, then is what we're trying to do to mobilize and to engage in advocacy around our industry, does it have legs? If it's like, well, there's only 30 of you, like you're not really truly representative of this industry. But like bartenders are so, and like I'll say bartenders, but like restaurant people are so like, in a way, like very individualistic. Like it's like I'm on my grind, like I'm doing my thing. Like I don't really like. I think for so many people, just like what Jamie was saying, it's like I'm not really down with politics. Like part of the reason why we do what we do is because was not.
You are now.
Part of what we do is because we don't thrive in bureaucracies and in hierarchies and in bullshit fucking structured environments of like oh, I'm gonna clock in and I'm gonna do I'm gonna kiss this ass and kiss that ass.
I'm actually really glad you said that, because not for nothing so the people who were in this industry during those 77 conversations, whatever, especially the one in front of the council or whatever, the ones who were against it, who were industry, you could tell that they didn't make family, which meant that
the ones who were for 77, the ones who were against repeal,
those ones they didn't understand what
they were on some different shit.
They were never around long enough. They were on more of the more selfish aspect of things. Yeah. And they didn't understand what it was like to be in this industry.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Be in this DC.
In this DC industry. You know what I mean? Yeah. Again, $65,000 a year. I got good cable.
I'm sorry.
People love me.
Can I just say,
one
of my favorite things that happened in that hearing was, first of all, your entire testimony.
Your testimony
was fire. And
this shit was hilarious.
When you, I think like you finished with, and I was scribbling little notes.
5 seconds left, mic drop.
I think you said, and as a last thought, ask any one of my managers if I do anything I don't want to do.
No. I said all 4 of my owners at the 2 places I work with, if I do shit I don't feel like doing.
I was like, yes, thank you. You are my spirit animal.
But no, it's again, those people are the ones who come to your job. They're there for a couple of weeks, and it's just like, you can't be here anymore.
Right.
No.
You can't,
and
that's okay.
There's this thing in Wonderland.
It's not for you.
There's this thing in Wonderland. It's like, either you're gonna be here for like a week and a half,
or 2 years.
Forever.
So I'm
6 years in, and I'm still trying to figure out how the fuck that happened.
I want to talk about what you said.
I got fired one time.
You came back. So you're talking about just the bartenders. I've been talking with chefs off and on for the past 3 years about doing a DC Chef Alliance, and I've talked to a lot of the celebrity chef friends of mine I have. But what I'm saying is and I had this collective, which actually, Mala, you gave me the inspiration for this collective. Back in the day. So I've talked to a lot of chefs, and I just haven't gone through with it, and I want to start it with a Facebook page but I always had this thought, And after meeting everybody from the 77, I was like, if we can pull these chefs together and you guys can get the bartenders together, you can't fuck with us. Because, I mean, we can shut down, we can go on strike. And we can change insurance. We can change a lot of things on the grassroots level.
You were going to get us killed.
Right? I was like,
I'm okay with that.
Speaking like that, you know Master paying attention.
Master's in bed right now, bitch.
Watch your mouth, white man.
All right. But no, like I can get together a couple hundred chefs.
But I think
if I get the celebrity chefs to join, then it's a trickle down effect after that. With chefs, we're fucking.
There's,
See, but
we
here's the
can
thing:
be-
is
we
like
can be-
chefs are workers too.
What was that?
Chefs?
Chefs?
Chefs? Chefs are workers too. I mean, like this isn't like this whatever we are organizing, we're not just strictly bartenders.
Right.
I mean, it's like it's the workers. Like
When
and
holiday
we want-
parties come around, we are all drunk together.
or front of house, back of the house.
And
like,
what I really, really, really want to figure out how to bring back of the house into these conversations, because
I can do that for us.
they
Let's do it.
are the actual lifeblood of our industry.
they are without them.
And there's
My ego's
so,
too big to admit that.
I understand. But there's so much, like there's so
Yes.
many barriers. And so while this whole conversation is happening around Initiative 77 and our industry and this thing
And
and
you
that
have the
thing,
support of all of us chefs who backed you guys.
right. But like, you know, there are a lot of reasons why you're not going to have people from the back of the house coming out to say, this thing is going to fuck up my hours. This thing is going to fuck up my
fuck up my
ability.
salary.
Yeah, like and really like
Take my
if
fucking money away
rock
from me.
was like worth any ounce of a shit worth of a damn,
Damn.
they're
That was
not.
that was kind of fucking. That was brutal.
I
I
never
know.
heard you so mean.
Oh,
I don't think that was brutal.
I'm
I just
into
think
it.
was-
You've
that just
known me
sounded
for a
some
long
good
time.
old
I'm
fashioned
into it.
Yes,
honesty.
you have.
How long,
Yes, you
how
have.
long
You
you two
have.
known
You've
each
known
other?
me
How
a
long
long
you
time.
two known each other?
2010?
9.
2009?
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
9
Science
years.
Club, RIP.
Oh, you just celebrated your anniversary with that, didn't you? Or
That's
your-
right.
Like a 10-year or something?
Wow.
Congratulations, Molly.
Well,
So-
it was 8 years of the 1-year anniversary at Science Club.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's amazing.
What the fuck?
So
is
anyway,
Science
if Rock was
You
worth
weren't here for Science Club?
anything,
What was Science Club?
it was
It was a bar.
It was an epic shit show. It was a glorious epic shit show
It
that like
was.
the shit show to end all shit shows.
Think
in
about science
the
projects,
city
but with a
of
bar,
Washington
right?
D.C.
Back when you had to smoke weed in the alley.
Oh my god!
Big shout outs to Wonderland.
Yeah. So I basically like I raised Dorian. Like I started working there when Dorian was like 8, and like I kind of knew like I wouldn't bring her with me to work, but like I'd be passing through, and it was just like a shit show chapter of my life. I realized I had maybe taken a wrong path when I gave Dorian like some medicine in a little cup. And she like tapped it. She tapped it on the counter and took it, and I was like, "Oh, I done fucked up
No,
now."
let me tell you about the cussing out I got from my mom. So like on Facebook, so Jamie
That's
knows
awesome,
how,
first of all.
my son knows how to cheers or whatever. So like if I have a glass, he has a glass. He like runs over and he's like, "Daddy,
"Cheers."
Daddy," and I'm like, "Cheers, kid." And like I put it on Facebook, and my mom was upset. I was like,
Did she whoop that ass?
No, I mean, come on now. I'm 140 miles away, and she's a little lazy nowadays. But
The distance saved
I'm
you.
not, yeah, bruh, let me tell you, because like I remember back in the day, my mom's calmed down a lot, but like I remember being a kid and my mom being like, "I'm gonna just go beat that bitch ass." She owes me $20, and I'm like, "It's just 20." And then like my mom leaves and comes back with swollen knuckles. I'm like, "My mom
And
just
$20.
That's what it is.
probably more." I'm like, "Yo,
$40.
My mom just done tore somebody out the frame
Wow.
for $20."
You're like, this is now an option. So, but the point that I was making when I went on my little rant was that if rock was worth a damn, they would be concerned if they are who they say they are, if they are about these like exploited workers who are perhaps experiencing conditions that they need support fighting against, they would be all about the back of the house. They don't give a fuck about the back
They
of the
don't give a
house.
shit about any
Which
of
they
us.
don't give a fuck about any of
They
us.
just want to start a United States restaurant union. That's all they fucking want to do.
Right.
So they want to break down the laws in every
Also,
single
how
state.
bad would that be, though? honestly.
The union that they run?
A union that
It would be terrible.
It'd be horrible.
Like, that right there literally is, like, not necessarily worst nightmare scenario, but, like...
Pretty bad nightmare.
Anyone who's been to, like, the West Coast lately or any of the 7 states understands how poor the service is.
I haven't been, so I can't speak to that.
I've been.
But,
it's bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, like, the only ones in California that make really good money are, like, the mixologists. And also, you are a shitty bartender if you call yourself a fucking mixologist.
Yeah, right?
Like, if anything,
hold on,
I'm a drink slinger at best. Like,
You are definitely a dick slinger.
you still ain't gonna get no dick, cuz you keep complaining about it. Every time Marcus come in like Looking Glass, he be like, "Oh man, this is gonna be so much good." But in the back of his head, he'd be like, "Oh god damn!"
Hold on, what?
And I'm like, "Marcus, you ain't gonna get no dick." And he'd be like, "Man,
How's your mom gonna feel about that?
Snaps fingers. I can't get no dick.
Fortunately, if his mom is like my mom, does your mom watch the podcast?
I don't think.
not.
I don't think
She won't
that
after
knows.
tonight. I'll tell you what.
I'm gonna tell you right now, Donna knows that I ain't shit or whatever.
She ain't the only
Like
one.
at one point in time, I remember my mom telling my girl, like, "Yo, like he ain't shit." And like honestly speaking, I don't ever remember him being shit.
Is she like, you can do better?
No, real shit, real shit. Like yo, like I'm his mom, and save yourself.
I love him, but
Do
girl,
not get
girl,
attached.
don't do it,
Don't
girl.
do it. Don't do it because
Stay
he
away.
ain't shit. And Dawn fucked around and stayed. And this right here is what we call Stockholm
And
syndrome.
now you got a beautiful baby.
I am the beast from Beauty and the Beast because this bitch is trapped. Like that sucks.
I feel like she's really into you.
She is. And
I
like I
love
said,
Dawn.
Stockholm
I mean,
syndrome.
yeah.
Like, what is this?
I don't know
swear-
enough. Beauty
Are you,
and the
wait,
Beast.
are you singing?
Oh my god.
Yes.
Are you really?
Yes, I'm
All
singing from
the
Beauty and the Beast.
time.
Are you crying?
I might be.
You kinda
Because
are.
I'm still shocked.
Wait, is it time for a safe word? I'm confused.
Do you remember what your safe word was?
I don't have a safe
There
word.
you go.
Firework. Cracker.
Beauty and the Beast.
Wait, let's end this with some 90s R&B. No.
Jodeci.
We'll
What?
take it there.
What time is
Jodeci.
Wait, no, that's every 90s R&B
Oh,
song
yeah.
has Na Woo in it. Like,
Na
Na Woo on a perfect day. Na Woo. See? There you go,
I
you
know I
bastards.
can
All right. Well, we're gonna wrap
Seriously,
it up.
I do think maybe we should consider forming a
No.
quartet.
No.
Yes.
Oh.
No.
I sound like
shop.
I sound like
No.
two
Why
dead cats fucking.
Oh,
I
no,
sound like a
never
drunk
mind.
Irishman.
I take it back.
I mean, but
You are a drunk Irishman from
but
Delaware.
But I feel like you're
Your
a
mom's
beautiful
house.
tenor.
Okay, say that to Donna face. Say that to Donna face.
I've
Yeah.
never
Say that to
met Donna.
Donna
I've
face.
never seen Donna here before. All right, we're gonna tap out. We're going to. You wanna go first?
Wait, what?
What?
Are we,
What?
What's
What's
happening?
happening?
What are we supposed to say?
It's
at
the
the
Oh
end
end?
of
my
our show,
God!
guys.
How many shows have you been?
Yo, we have drank so much thought
You have
juice
had
that
your
they
closing
forgot.
thoughts. We never had
Oh, closing thoughts? Okay.
Oh my God!
Yep.
Every show you
closing
have
thoughts.
a
All right.
shot.
I've never
All right,
had a closing
I'm
thought.
reclaiming my time. Chairman, I'm reclaiming my time. May I reclaim my time?
Yes.
I'm reclaiming my time.
You too
my-
As
light
the
skinned to
referee
reclaim
of
your
this
time.
podcast, I say yes.
Thank you. So my closing thoughts are, I would like to thank Council Chairperson Mendelson, Councilman McDuffie, Councilman Trayon White, Anita Bonds, David Grosso, Jack Evans, Brandon Todd, and Vincent Gray for being champions for us and standing up for democracy and the restaurant industry and listening to workers in this city. I give my thanks to them. And I ask everybody who's out there who's like, oh, I don't know enough. I care, but I don't want to like get involved. Get involved. Learn about the things that are happening in your
Yes.
city because it's everything.
Yes.
Every politics is local and everything that's happened, like what happened, like the Kavanaugh, even though we don't have a voting representation in Congress, the Kavanaugh nomination is the trickle-down effect of individual peoples that didn't feel like they had a way to be heard or to get involved, and you do. Your voice matters, and we really have to be heard right now. It's important now, more important than ever, and like let's like get together, like form alliances, come out. When people send you those invites for those meetings,
Fucking
and you're
do
like,
it, go.
Just
I don't
come.
know, I'm tired. Go to the meeting, or if you can't go to the meeting, send an email and be like, how can I get involved? Because we need you. We all have to be in this fight. It matters. It matters. We are all Rocky standing up against Ivan Drago. When
And
he
Rocky
looks at
IV,
you,
'cause Rocky
he
IV is
says
awesome. It's an amazing
trash.
movie.
When Ivan
And
Drago,
also, if the
when
stormtroopers make all
Ivan-
the shots, this movie ends.
when Ivan
up.
Drago looks at you and he says, I will break you, you have to look at him and say, go for it.
Really?
He actually didn't
BB
say
out.
go for it. He kind of just like looked at him real funny.
Yeah.
I think
Eventually, it turned out he is not the man. He is made of steel.
he might have said go for it to Clubber Lang in Rocky 3. I might be conflating. VB out.
Valerie Torres.
Yes. Hi. Well, just to piggyback on other Val.
Payback or piggyback?
Piggyback.
Piggyback?
Piggyback.
Use your words.
I just did.
I feel like you're not using
No,
I think
she's not using
so.
it. She's not.
You
I
heard
heard
payback?
that.
You heard payback?
Gentlemen.
Quiet.
Tell him.
Miss
You know that moment where
Torres.
you want to say
I
something
think
real
it's
inappropriate.
well, I think
That's
it's
where our
really
filters.
important for everybody to get involved. I mean, I think that, this is something that 77 or something else, I mean, I am guilty of it myself prior to this, like I wasn't involved at all. I mean, we've talked about how didn't pay attention. Like now all of a sudden all I can do is pay attention.
Yeah.
And I think that, a lot of these policies affect us and we need to be involved. And so that is my last word. Be involved.
Mr. Philadelphia.
I just want to add that Marcus is from somewhere that we can't find on a map. First thing first. No, okay, all right. Look, fine. I got a lot of things to say in a lot of short time.
You have 2 minutes.
But what I'm trying to say is that these ladies are perfectly right, and now we have to pay attention to local. It doesn't even feel right
I
to
don't like
say.
it.
Say it.
I don't like
It does feel right.
Say
You
it
need
and
to-
own it.
It doesn't feel right
Own
to
it.
say though, because I've always just been like, yo, I don't give a fuck. But now that I got a fuck to give,
Yeah.
like that's 3 years old.
Politics literally
You know
means
what I
power.
mean? And
It's
like-
power.
Well, here's the thing.
Who gets to have power in your life?
Here's the thing, and this is something I read this in a book one time. This guy was like, "Is it better to have money or is it better to have power?"
Power.
It's better to have power.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because honestly speaking, if I'm worth all this, and y'all about to change the law, you got to call me before you change the law. Either I got $1 billion or $1 million. You still had to call me first. You know what I mean?
So you're equating money with power.
No, I'm equating power. I'm equating power being worth more than money.
Yeah.
And I feel like, yes, as us, woe is me, poor ass bartenders, please, master, don't pay much attention
Rescue
to
me.
That all these, people in the city were saying that, oh, I need to rescue you. You don't know any better. This and this and this, which
This
is
will be
something
good for you.
that I like to bring up to every single person who's pro 77. You don't gotta save me because again, I got good cable. I'm chilling. You know what I mean?
You have a good
I
life.
feel like if we come together, we have this good power going on and so forth. And don't expect me to be at every meeting because I sure as shit know that this broad is at Langley for the PTA. But I'm going to tell you right now.
I'm just surprised you shaded it up here.
I will never be at a PTA meeting.
You need to go.
No,
Go-
no,
need to go to one.
Go to one.
no. Here we go.
to one.
Here's the thing. Dawn goes to PTA. Daddy gets the phone calls. So
That's fair. I can
50-50. Boom. I'm cool with that. Also, ladies and gentlemen, quit smoking cigarettes because we have hit the point over $10. What? Guys, call it a day. Bruh.
It's $11 now.
Damn. $11.50.
I've never smoked a cigarette in my life.
Oh my God, you're amazing.
I smoked for
You don't date
23
black
years
guys, do
and
you?
cold turkey.
Okay.
I should say
I
I
feel
don't,
really
but I
bad
have
for
it.
all the
Too late,
cigarettes I
too late.
bumped.
You already said
Right.
something racist, Val.
We're on out. Molly, you have anything you want to say?
I kind of want to echo a little bit, what everybody's saying about paying attention. I think that we're all guilty. And like this past year, some people approached me and asked me to run for a position within the Democratic Nationals or the state committee. And so I ran for national committee woman for the Democratic State Committee, which I'm still to this day not 100% sure what that position does.
Yeah, I don't know. That
I voted for you.
I just
though.
know that I need to know how to spell committee in order to pull that off. But,
Two M's, two
but I
T's,
say
two
this
E's.
because I realized that quickly into this process that, number one, I don't have time. And number two, I'm not educated enough to be representing anybody. And so I was really motivated by Jay Cooper, who passed away 2 years ago in November. And he inspired me more than anybody has ever inspired me in my life.
Has that only been 2 years?
Yeah. And that was before Trump came into office. And when Trump showed up, I could only think about Jay, you know, and all these things happening in our city, I could only think about Jay. So when I was approached, I said yes, because I literally like saw Jay like over my shoulder being like, bitch, if you, well, he would never say that. He was much more cultured than already. But he would have been very disappointed if I had said no. Yeah. And that's why I did it. But I realized like, I'm not ready for this. But what happened in that process is I met a bunch of people. I met a guy named Gordon Andrew Fletcher, who's like an ANC Ward 5 guy. He's got a long trajectory in politics. He wants to run for council member, then senator, then all those things, you know?
Connections.
And you know what? Like, that dude is all in. I resonate with that dude. I agree with that dude. I respect that dude. And so, you know what? I don't need to fucking run. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to help him.
Yep.
Okay?
That's
I can
exactly
use some of my marketing skills to help him.
Right.
I can use my platform to help him. Because I think that, like, you know, we also have to understand people's you know, possibilities and, like, resources. Not everybody can go to these fucking meetings. Like, I'm sorry. Not everybody has time. And no matter how much they might care, maybe they can't. The other day, I was supposed to be at the hearing for the noise ordinance. I went to therapy instead. I'm sorry. I'm not going to feel bad about that. I needed therapy, right? Like, so everybody can't always show up. And if you're somebody who can't show up, then, like, spend one day, do a little research, and donate $100 a month to somebody that can show up, right?
Or write
Make
in.
graphics for them. Like, do motherfucking something.
Right.
Okay, because all the shit we're seeing in our city right now starts at a local level. Yep. It wasn't just the mayor that sold us out. All these other motherfuckers sold us out too, you know? And those ANC meetings in all of our neighborhoods are fucking empty every month, except for the people who are fighting to keep their business license or their liquor license or whatever.
Right.
No one fucking shows up to those, and that's where all the decision starts.
Exactly.
I went to a bunch of those, had no idea what was going on. So again, if you don't get it, don't throw your fucking vote in the hat, because you might shit the bed and really mess things up even more. But find someone you do resonate with and support them, because if they're willing to give up their time and put all their energy and love and devotion into like giving a shit about people, then like help them. You know, help them. Like, you know, you don't need to always run. It doesn't always have to be you, right? Like, put your narcissism down for a second and support the people really making a difference. That's my best advice.
I love everything about that, and I'm going to piggyback on that as well. Like I said, man, we need to start at the bottom. We need to start at the ground. We need to be the grassroots. You need to find out what you can do, get involved. Like, everything Molly said was absolutely right. You just start somewhere. And if you can't and you don't have the time to do it, find somebody you believe in and support them. Like I said, what Jessica Raven did was fucking amazing. That should be an inspiration to all of us. Like, talking to Molly has been an inspiration to me. It just makes me want to go out there and fucking pick up trash. It makes me want to go to the homeless shelter. It makes me want to get involved more in my community. And we all need to do that. And we all have power in numbers. So, with that being said, be good, be positive, love one another. Thank you for joining us for another wonderful AS Fck Show. Thank you to all my friends and guests. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having me. Hey.
And
Thanks, Molly.
I do like your haircut. Don't get me wrong.
Thank you, One Love
You want
Massive.
to rub my head?
I really love this.
Not
I'm Marcus
yet.
Bradley Donovan, a.k.a. the Pasteurized Chef.
right.
We are out.